When you think of edgy adult animation cartoons, what comes to your mind? Family Guy, South Park, hell, even The Simpsons? All of these shows are indeed iconic and have a little edge to them, hence the name adult animation they fall under. But did you know that the craziest, most shocking, and downright borderline satanic show ever created isn't even that popular compared to its competitors? Well, and from what I've researched, it can only be found on an archives channel created by what I've assumed to be a loyal fan. Yes, this short-lived show was a real thing, and I've stated it wasn't very popular compared to its other competitors like South Park and Family Guy or even Adult Swim shows at the time. Well, that's just the thing. This show may not be that popular, but it is very legendary, at least in my opinion. So go ahead and sit back, grab a box of Chewies, and relax as we go over a brief history of America's most chaotic, and maybe even most controversial show of all time. Now, I usually don't make commentary videos like this very often, but after not finding much content based on the show here on this lovely website that God probably did not intend on having planned.
Okay. Here's the song.
Plus, I haven't really seen too much talk of people's own opinions and thoughts on it. Well, then there's this clip of this absolute Chad right here.
What's this? Listen as they make fun of farmers.
So I figured that I might as well take a stab at it. I mean, hell, somebody has to keep this semi-relevant. And who better to tell the internet than a severely ADHD-driven dumbass who thinks he's the next coming of Gamer Christ. What's up, gamers? Okay, my mom just cut me out of my will. Now before I go any further, let me just warn you that this is the show Edgier than South Park, so if you are sensitive to offensive and graphic content, then you might want to skip this. But if you watch my channel regularly, then you are probably already desensitized to pure retardation anyway, so it's probably whatever. Also, this video is going to be more about my personal experiences with the show and my thoughts on it. So if you want a more in-depth kind of history overview on this, then there's plenty of articles you can find on it. But yeah, I know, not the very exciting response you're looking for, but let's actually get into this. So, growing up in a typical Christian household, I wasn't really allowed to watch anything too graphic or crazy. So to pretty much sum it up for you, at the age of 9, I got a nosebleed from watching a 1977 Superman movie, immediately felt dirty, thought I was Clark Kent, and tried flying off my trampoline, and then I fractured my arm. So that's the kind of household I was living in. However, I said to myself, fuck you, Dad, I'm gonna be a fucking gangster. So you already know what's about to pop off. Every night when my parents would go to sleep, I would sneak downstairs and tune into Adult Swim and watch such classics, such as Robot Chicken, Family Guy, and Squidbillies. Yeah, I was kinda cool. Some very fond memories of me were, giving my couch that somebody probably prayed on a shit stain while watching Robot Chicken and being freaked out yet fascinated by what I was seeing. My mind was not used to this graphic and dark comedy that my eyes were being subjected to. It was inappropriate, blasphemous, everything against your typical Sunday church activities, and of course, fucking awesome. I was genuinely disturbed, usually by the claymation style of Robot Chicken, but also fascinated by the humor and stuff that these shows were getting away with. And this is where my interest in adult animation began. Yeah, other kids my age were watching stuff like SpongeBob and Beyblade. Oh, who am I kidding? You know you guys were doing it too. Anyway, I bring this up because this is how I met one of my best friends years later. We met in 7th grade and shared the same type of humor and appreciation for these kinds of television shows and also comedy skits. As we became closer friends, we would often talk about what shows and things we would create. And it wasn't until a couple years later after that I spent a night at his house, and one of his siblings, his older brother to be exact, brought up something that puzzled me. "You want to see something funny?" he said. "Sure," I replied. And the way he said it, I was really sure he was going to show me something fucked up. I wasn't wrong. And I'm pretty sure seeing grandma porn would have been more comfortable to watch than what I was about to witness. So my friend's brother pulled out his phone and showed me this. That was only the intro. The 20 minutes or so I had just witnessed were absolutely amazing. For an edgy teenager like myself, this was actual gold. Sure, I've seen shows like South Park, which is arguably the most inappropriate show ever created, period, but something about the show was different. Yeah, it was edgy, and I mean really edgy. Like a part of the show shows an animated clip of like a married couple and the wife literally giving birth while a dog rips a baby out of the uterus with the umbilical cord still attached. It's pretty fucked up. And I think there's an actual decomposition of a box, and that was shown. And keep in mind, this was the very first episode of that show. And I get it. That first episode may not be much crazier compared to some of the stuff South Park has done before. But something about the show felt uncanny, disturbing, and downright evil at times. But in a good way, I guess? Well, it is just satire. It's obviously just good old fun and not meant to be taken seriously at all. But still, this is wild. And that's coming from somebody who's a pretty edgy guy. I know, look out, guys. Goddamn Steve Buscemi with a skateboard approaching your minors is coming through. Call the fucking chiropractor. But seriously, even this made me go wow. And after binging the entirety of the show twice, I can honestly say this is the craziest, most wild show I have ever seen. The first time I binged it all, it genuinely scarred me, made me a tiny bit curious about my beliefs and unconscious actions toward people. Like, I'm not even kidding. I'm not a very philosophical guy, but this is what this show made me did. It's fucking wild. I can't really describe what I felt like after watching it all, and honestly, it's kind of sad seeing that the show got canceled after only 2 seasons, but hey, that kind of stuff would not fly today. And it didn't fly back then either. It sunk like my retainer in the toilet because it was literally too bad for television. And you might be thinking, Tyler, if this show really impacted you like this and is as hyped up as you were making it, why do you like it so much? Well, like I said, it's purely satire and it's not meant to be taken very seriously. It's dark comedy, for Christ's sake. But this is like Starvin' Marvin dark chocolate comedy. I'm actually not even just hyping this up too much. I mean, this show is fucking wild. But what actually is Wonder Chosen? Well, it's kind of like a demented parody of Sesame Street with the puppets, animated segments, mock interviews, and mini documentaries with outlandish commentary. Think of the Eric Andre show and Sesame Street if they had a baby. That's pretty much what it is. Now, Wonder Chosen does have political undertones in their jokes, and me not being a political person at all, the undertones I do notice. However, it's the randomness of these jokes that make it funny for me. One moment they'll be talking about a child's dad leaving their family, and then out of nowhere, boom, capitalism. And that's what the show is, random, offensive jokes, and it's done right. Now, I know I'm comparing this to South Park a lot, but the levels of humor are very similar. The reason I bring this up is to give a better understanding of these plots because the plots of the show themselves actually are pretty damn creative. Like South Park, so it's pretty demented, of course, as expected. So, like, for example, in one episode, Mother Nature has a sex change, and one of the main characters, Chauncey, alongside others, try to convince her that it is very unnatural, and because of this, the Earth starts to suffer because of this, and actually, you see the operation take place. The the you know what I'm talking about, and Mother Nature's, as they're called, lady parts are out in this container, and well, the Earth is saved through. Okay, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. Chauncey fucks Mother Nature's removed lady parts, giving life to nature again, and Mother Nature turns back into a woman. Yeah, so complex and stupid plots like this are what to be expected in Wonder Shows, and in the midst of all the madness that goes on, clever undertones and philosophy, or just clever stupidity, I guess, that is what goes on. Even as someone who isn't political or philosophical, I have to give props to the show because they were able to combine fart jokes with bigger pictures, so to speak, which in my opinion isn't really executed that well often, and both, nonetheless, is executed quite well. And in a way, there's something for everybody in the show. Your standard offensive, edgy humor, bigger thoughts on society and politics, variety of content styles, meaning it's not just like interview here, there's animations, puppet segments, the mini documentaries with the commentary, the kids talking over it. It's literally like everything's here. And I know I'm all over the place, but it really is hard to capture all of what Wonder Chosen is, and I can't stress enough that you yourself go watch it and formulate your own opinion on it. I'll leave a link in the description just so you guys can see it. So, another thing interesting that takes place in the show is that the fact that they take actual children and have them say these outrageous and controversial things. No, not High School Musical actors where like someone in their late 20s who probably has a restraining order in the future, he's playing a fucking 10-year-old. No, like actual kids to even toddlers. And you know how in Sesame Street where the kids talk to the puppets? Well, imagine that, but the spirit of your drunk uncle who just got bailed out is blabbering to the audience and to the Elmo and Kermit the Frog like protagonists.
Something that happened long time. An emotional minefield. Love is something special between my dog's butt and the carpet.
That's a sissy excuse.
Ask my cellmate.
My daddy needs pills for love.
A neurochemical con job. A new product.
Who cares? I'm going to Cabo. Woo! I hate myself. I hate myself. I hate myself.
These kids act as the kids would in Sesame Street with Vulgar, and some of the kids even act as the reporters during the Man on the Street interviews, ranging from asking Wall Street workers, "Who have you exploited today?" to one of the kids, Travis, dressing up in a Hitler costume, asking people, "What's wrong with the youth of today?" Quite honestly, seeing some of the kids say the things they did weirded me out, but I believe that's what it was going for. If these kids were adult actors, it probably wouldn't have been as impactful because, well, they are adults. They are held at a higher place for knowing right from wrong. And it's kind of genius, really. Do you think the same thing would have happened if an adult person in a Hitler costume would have went up to a Jewish person? No, the following probably would have happened. But they're not. They're children. Maybe that was one of the undertones they were going for. I didn't really notice too much. So unfortunately, there is actual racism and sexism in the world, and perhaps this is a way of showing people that it's the same thing as a child saying these things just to make this more disturbing. Now I know, you really think a genuine racist is going to look at this and be like, "Ah, I know my right from wrong now." No, they're probably going to keep doing this. But still, it's a unique way to approach such topics as these, and that's probably what the show at the end of the day is about. Just to show how being problematic is a very stupid way of going on about life. And no, I'm not talking about your average Xbox Live party, okay? I'm talking about actual genuine hatred. And Wonder Chosen does a very good job at going over these topics without getting too preachy, and I commend it and its creators, Vernon Chapman and John Lee, for that. Yeah, it's about time I give credit where credit is due. Those guys are the ones who were responsible with creating this once-in-a-blue-moon show. Congrats, guys, you really made something special here, really. And if these guys sound familiar to you, by the way, then you probably already know them from making another fantastic show, Xavier Renegade Angel. Another show similar to Wonder Chosen. But anyway, let's get back to Wonder Chosen. So another thing that makes Wonder Chosen stand out is not just its over-the-top comedy, but its emphasis on violence, genuine graphic material, and uncanny vibes it sets up. Whether it's showing a literal animal shitting, giving birth, or being slaughtered. Kappa on YouTube, I do not promote animal cruelty, by the way. Very unsettling music and sounds, or just overemphasis on extreme cartoon violence and extreme content. The show doesn't really shy away from keeping you on edge. I mean, hell, just listen to some of the shit that's in the show.
When happiness. You, my friend, will get you in the end.
I mean, if one of those things doesn't mess with your mind, then I don't know what else does. Well, maybe this. Okay, I won't go that far, but you get the point. Another thing that is very unsettling is the kids saying these outlandish things that you would not expect to come out of a child's mouth, especially a child at the age of 2 to 3, which sometimes does happen. And the whole aspect and overall mood of the show is very unsettling, which I've always took away from when I'm watching an episode. And that's probably the obvious thing they were going for, but no other show has left me on edge the way Wonder Chosen has. Like I said, I really enjoyed the show the first binge, but it kind of scarred me a little bit. And I've seen Robot Chicken. Seriously, have you seen Uncanny Claymation? Fucking hell. Anyway, Wonder Chosen does a great job of being genuinely unsettling and straight up hard to watch sometimes. And that's coming from a guy who's watched Two Girls, One Cup while eating a chocolate Hershey's bar. And sometimes the show is hard to watch straight out of the lack of patience. For example, in one of the episodes ironically named Patience, midway through the episode itself starts to rewind itself from where it was, and it goes all the way back to the beginning. And this is like 10 or 15 minutes in, and the episode itself was already slow enough to watch, probably on purpose. So now you have to watch the show backwards to the very beginning. And then, on top of that, you have to watch it all over again. Although new content is presented after the episode rewinds itself, you are already ready for the next episode, and it's just very tedious at that point. It's little things like this that make the show very unique and stand out from other shows like it. It's really one of a kind. I can't stress that enough. And you can tell that even though this show is essentially fart joke and undertone here, the writers and crew really put their passion into this, and the result of this was an outrageously vulgar and offensive, yet brilliant show that will never be replicated ever or seen again. Really, this show is a once-in-a-lifetime thing, and I really wish I was there, the age I am now, during its prime, around like 2005, 2006, to experience it and be hyped up for each episode that would come out. But like I said, this show is still available through archive channels, like those in the description. Now, one may argue, oh Tyler, shows that push boundaries like Taboo happens all the time. South Park does this literally all the time. Well, yeah, they do, but not in the way Wonder Chosen did. You see, Wonder Chosen doesn't just tell a joke set in undertone and that's it. It almost in a way becomes so satirical that the show itself ignores the joke after it happens and then gets immediately into something else due to the randomness of the show in general, and leaves the audience thinking, is this really what's going on? Is that really how I think? It's really hard to explain, but you just have to see it for yourself to know what I'm talking about. Another thing you might be thinking, Tyler, edgy content is literally made all the time. What makes this the most crazy content that tops none? And that's a good argument. This video itself is titled "The Show Edgier Than South Park," after all. Well, I'll tell you what makes it just that. You see, South Park is a very good example of this. You see crazy stuff in that show, like the Queen of England shooting herself in the head, or Steve Irwin showing up to Satan's Sweet 16 with a stingray through his heart happens, but that's just a cartoon. And it's not really too real. For example, one of the bits in Wonder Chosen called Funny Not Funny, uncensored things like actual shitting of animals, old footage of a man either very injured or, God forbid, killed, uncensored footage of a rhino having sex with another rhino is shown. Very, very disturbing things. And obviously I don't condone such things like this being bragged about, by the way, but that's just what makes the show so shocking. Aside from your typical censored swear words, the show is little to almost completely uncensored. Wonder Chosen is not afraid to show you some crazy shit. Sometimes the show isn't funny at all and makes you think, should I be watching this? But I think that's what the show is going for. The grim and in-your-face material that is shown in the show really shows you the evil that goes on in the world. And again, this is probably another undertone, but I think again, that's the point. Wonder Chosen isn't just a show that you should watch and laugh at and forget. Sometimes it really shows you the dark nature that people in society attain, and it's not afraid to do so. For example, sometimes during these interviews, actual arrogance and ignorance is revealed by the people that are, I guess, quote unquote, interviewed by Clarence, but they're really just harassing him. And I'm paraphrasing this, but he basically goes up to this man, and one of the things he says is, in his voice, "All right, the cameras are off, so what do you really think about the Jews?" And, well, the guy actually says some pretty heinous and ignorant stuff about Jewish people. Then Clarence says, "Did you get that?" And the man looks completely shocked and starts denying what he just said. This show is not afraid to show what evil really goes on in this world. And as much as it almost desensitizes the audience to these things over time, by the end or even by the middle of it, you really realize how real, disturbing, and serious these kinds of topics and things are. Sure, we can laugh and joke about it and get as edgy as we want, but at the end of the day, we must realize that these are real-world issues, and that we must try our best to be good people and help others, and maybe even, for extra credit, try not to be the next thing that shows like this mock. I'm not a very religious person at all, but I would consider myself to be a believer in God. And whether this is a controversial thing to say with my fellow believers watching, religious or not, I think the show is actually a very Christ-like show. But Tyler, how are you going to say that about a show that literally depicts God killing himself in one of the episodes? And let me explain before I just say that and sound like some weird cult follower. As Christians or other believers, we tend to be more judgy towards people who differ from us, and the show makes fun of everyone, literally everyone. And one of those people are, of course, the stereotypical followers of Christ. They do the typical shitting on stereotypical homophobic and problematic tropes that are associated with people such as this, and, of course, show how ignorant and dumbfounded they look. And the reason I say this show is like a Christ-like show is because the overall message of the religious segment is that regardless of religious beliefs, we all need to be more respectful of one another. And I believe if Jesus really came down to earth again, he would not act like the majority of the Christians and believers nowadays, sadly. And I think that's what some of the segments of the show are trying to, well, show. Sure, they shit on religious beliefs and stuff like that, but like I said, they make fun of everyone. So the particular message they try to share is why I think the show isn't just your typical let's shit on religion because it's stupid trope that goes along with many other shows like this. Or at least that's how I interpret it. It shows that us religious boys and buckos need to chill out on its my way or the highway sort of attitude towards life and be more accepting of people, regardless of what they believe, while we can still retain to our own beliefs. You can believe whatever you want, and your morals are your morals, but when it becomes hateful and starts to be disrespectful, that's when the line is crossed and then goes from belief to just straight up hate. And I genuinely think if this show was made nowadays, especially in this world where religion is dying, more modern Christians would see a little bit of ignorance in some of their actions. And again, I'm not saying all Christians are like this, of course, but there are a few bad apples out there. Trust me, I know from experience. And they would at least recognize this. Now, whether they listen to this or not, ignorance could be recognized and maybe even change their views on certain things. And again, obviously, it's not 100% guaranteed that they're going to think this way, and their lives definitely wouldn't change from a little edgy show starring vulgar puppets and loudmouth kids. But a little recognition would at least be present, and from there on, who knows what will happen. Obviously, Wonder Chosen isn't the answer to stopping toxic Christians from being obnoxious, but still, it wouldn't hurt to have a little reflection. And I think I got a little too carried away with this topic. Pretty much, the show is kind of Christ-like because the show shows us how not to be a Christian or a believer, if that makes sense at all. It's not just religious people that the show exposes and picks on, it's literally everyone, so a little arrogance is exposed from everyone. So whoever you are not safe. The show pretty much shows that whoever you are...
Get lost, retards.
Well, I bet you didn't expect some long-forgotten adult television program from MTV to get this deep, huh? Or maybe you did. Either way, it truly is hard to deny that even though this show is one of those obscure and long-lost things in media, it still has had an impact on people, whether it's a cult following or not. This show truly was and will forever be legendary, and it holds a special place in my heart. It really goes to show that something can be impactful if you really put your mind to it like John and Vernon did, and I really hope they know just how much they have made that impact on people through the show. Well, maybe it's just not that deep, and we just simply laugh our asses off and have a good time each episode. Either way, it's still an impact and a win in my book. And it's safe to say they have made that impact. Well, those are my thoughts on the show Edgier than South Park. This is Gamer Tyler, and as always, have a blessed day.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Goodbye.